Welcome back to Kin in Line. I make this part 48. I could be wrong there. Anyway, I'm out of the army, it seems, and have just been wading through the drawings I did soon afterwards, and there are so many, it's going to be potluck what comes up first and in what sort of sequence. Excuse me. Here we have a drawing I did from the back of the sand dunes. They're sort of at Bonza Bay. They're covered in dense sort of milkwood trees, a real indigenous forest there. So one could climb up there and then take a photograph or do a drawing. And this was a sketch I did of some of the houses in Bonza Bay. They were really quite humble places. Ours was different in that it had a flat roof, but most were these conventional sort of pitched roofs with a balcony out the front. So I had a bit of fun here sketching from the top of that sand dune. And doing it in ink, pen and ink, which isn't always easy to carry around with you. This is still paper that I got from the military where I was stationed in Kimberley for the past 16, 18 months. There we go, it's in focus at last. So this is a view out along Bonza Bay Beach towards Nahoon. And I always like to put a figure in, so we've got this slightly caricature figure of a person and a dog. But look at these waves pounding through here. This was where we grew up and where my brother Donald still surfs. He's been surfing there for about 50 years, as well as, of course, out at Nahoon Reef and all around East London. But I think I captured something of the power of these waves because they come in straight off the Indian Ocean, There's no big bay or anything. Nearby, of course, just inland from the sea was the Bonza Bay Hotel, and this was one of our many mates that one of the waiters or barman or something. I try to sketch them all during my drinking sessions. Here's another. So even though I'm out of the army, I'm still at it, and I quite like that face in the background there. It's really distorted, but it sort of just adds to the composition. Here we're I mentioned that there was a downstairs restaurant called the Family Tree, just down from the Hobnob, which was the ladies' bar. And here we've got a family sitting around a table having dinner. And occasionally we would end up there after a good session upstairs, sort of trying to mitigate the impact. Sorry. This was Gillian Boltman, who was girlfriend of my brother Don for a few years. Very quick sketch of her. I'm sure she wouldn't be too chuffed, but anyway, that was her. Forget this woman's name. This drawing really made her look like a Native American squaw, but I can't remember her name. Desiree somebody, and we called her Desire. There was always a little bit of innuendo around when, particularly Alistair, my brother, was part of the jaw. So I don't know who this girl was, but she won't be too chuffed with that. Talking of Alistair, I think this is probably him or Donald without a beard. must have been at a time when we were all out of the army for a while together. This is Alistair again, without his glasses. He was, I think, the first of us to have to wear glasses. And that little bowl on the mantelpiece behind him is something that I made in matric or standard 9 at woodwork. It turned on a lathe. It was quite a nice looking thing. A lidded bowl, sort of that shape. And here's old Alistair again. He passed away, unfortunately, in 96, heart attack while playing indoor cricket. Very sudden, and his son was only about a year old. So that was a shock to us. And here's another brother. This is definitely Donald, who's about 4 years younger than me, but I was probably closer to him, and he's, as I said, still surfing and living in East London. And then my eldest brother, actually, Ian, who was sort of the leader of the pack for many years, in our teenage years particularly. And he had an incredible instinct for the music that was coming out right from back in the early 60s. I mean, so he was born in 53. And by 63, I think he was already on top of what was coming out. I mean, it was such a phenomenon with the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Hendrix, Dylan, you name it. And Ian sort of got to hear of bands before they even became famous. I remember he was onto Springsteen, Bowie, before most people had heard of them. This is a face I don't recognize, I'm afraid, but from that same era. I should recognize this girl because I did such a quick little sketch of her. I think she was a friend of Gillian Boltperson. And behind her is another lady who would have been part of the Jaw, and I can't actually place her. And if you sit around in a pub long enough, you'll find some old character to sketch. And this guy with his cigarette in hand, nice big beard. Yeah, this coming up is Glenn Coates, who was at school with me, I think, right from primary school into high school at Clifton Park, which became Hudson Park. Yeah, and so I think he was a year or two ahead of me. There's a curious figure. I think it's trying to be a dog, but we'll have to leave it at that. Yeah, it probably was a dog because we had this little dachshund-like creature. And I think that's it at the top. Not my best drawing. I think we can skip this one. It's just too... Oh, there we go. This is quite a nice one. So it's outside looking through the window and clearly not too chuffed with the fact that the humans are nowhere near or out of reach anyway. Maybe we were off to the beach and this poor little guy had to stay at home. And then from dogs to... Oh, there's that same chap again. All neatly curled up in a ball. Yeah. Unfortunately, I never sketched our most famous dog, whose name was Grootond, which is the English way of saying groot hond, which means big dog, which is a bizarre name, but Grootond became a bit of a legend in his own life. time. A cross between a Zimbabwe Rhodesian, it would be Ridgeback, and an Alsatian. So he was one mean looking character, I can tell you. That last little cat was actually done in the army. I can remember that. But this one was done at home. And here's another example of how you can put a detailed drawing together if your subject just stays still long enough, which this little chap did. And it's quite a nice little face there. Not much to report there, just a very quick one. And likewise here. Let's just go through these quickly. So this was on the Bonza Bay beach. Old duck, probably about my age now, with her stick. I used the cheap, bit nasty paper, unfortunately, but that's just what you do. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to leave it for now, because I see this sketch pad's from a little bit later on in the 80s. But see you just now next time.